Hello everybody and welcome to another Houdini tutorial. My name is Kate and today we'll be talking about particles. We'll also be generating some abstract effects with particles and seeing what we can create with them. I asked you guys on my YouTube channel what you'd like to see, and particles was one of the top results. Physics and Houdini is going to come a little bit later as I have to do some actual research on that, not just practical applications, so you'll see that come a little bit later on the channel. So let's get started. So keep in mind about particles is that you're going to get a better abstract effect the more abstract your emitter source is, and that pretty much goes for anything you build in. If you're building an abstract effect. So let's lay down a geonode. I'm just adding some lighting just so I can see what's going on in the scene. And let's play around. So I think I'm going to add a grid, simply so we can generate some points from it. And we'll create an abstract emitter, and then we'll dive into what you can do inside a PopNet. I'm just going to operate this lesson today about all the different forces and different things you can do inside a PopNet, rather than focus on outside with wrangles and vops. That might be in a part 2 later on. I don't know, but we'll focus on this for now. So I'll put 100 points down. I'm also going to play with this and add an attribute wrangle. Not an attribute wrangle, an attribute noise. Let me see how that looks. That works. There you go. Now we have our particles. So let's add our pop network down. And I'm thinking before I do anything else, I'm going to go to an attribute randomize. I'm going to add a p-scale. And we'll do something like that. Copy to points, one of our favorite nodes. And a sphere of fear. And now if we look at this, we should see some of these spheres appearing and changing. I'm also going to go to display, and in this case I'm going to go to background and change this to light, just so I can see what's going on. So you can see the spheres don't really do anything, they just kind of change color with an attribute randomize on it. So let me time shift. And put you over there. Okay, so jumping back in, I've decided to leave it like this, simply because I came up with an idea of how to make this work. So yeah, as the points shift, the color also shifts. And then we're going to add a different scatter node. And we'll base this on CD. That should work. So let's go to our PopNet. So the goal of today is just to create an abstract particle effect. And before we do anything else and we dive inside, I'm going to lay down an attribute delete. Delete our color. And there we go. And you'll see why in a minute why I'm deleting the color. So already you can see our pop net isn't picking anything up. So we'll switch this over to points. You can see the points being generated. I'm going to turn this down to 1 and give it a variance of 3.3. Now we can add our forces. So in our PopNet, we have our standardized forces, which pop force, pop wind, gravity, etc. But there's a lot of things we could do. So let's play around and see what we can create. I'm going to turn off my emitter because we know it's there. We can see these kind of bursting and taking effect. That looks kind of cool already, to be honest. I think this is giving me an idea for something. So I'm going to place a camera here, just for fun. So I like how what that's doing. It's kind of bursting or breaking apart. We could even add like a mountain, really, on our sphere to give it some more variance in our emitter. I wouldn't say so drastically that it's going to change a lot, but that works. So let's add our attribute delete. Delete our attributes that we don't need. I'm just skimming through these so you can see which ones get produced by the PopNet. You don't have to do this manually, but I'm doing it like this so you can see everything that's being generated. Currently we might need the age, and we might currently we might need the age and the velocity of the particles, so I'm not going to take those away. I'm also going to lay down an attribute randomize. Actually, you know what, let's steal the one up here and we'll modify it. It's going to be a little bit too big, but I'm not too scared about that. Go to camera view and we'll make this a tiny bit smaller. And there are our particles. They're a bit too big, and I think we can generate more. So I'll lower that to here. Still maybe a little bit too small. That works. Go back to our pop force. Maybe add it a 4, and let's double it and go to 0.8. And I'm going to turn on my visualizing options. And that seems to work pretty well. So you can already see what a basic PopNet kind of does. Now, one thing I like using is a pop color inside my PopNet. It gives me a little bit more flexibility when it comes to adding colors onto particles. And I'm going to switch my display back to a dark. And we can ramp them up and we can change the color. So for these ones, I'm going to go into a hot color type of tonal range. So from red to yellow. Actually, green would be pretty cool. Put the yellow there. Orange. Maybe a darker orange. Now if we play it back, you should see something happen. Got some moving cool particles. Another thing you can change about the particles is that you can update the alpha of the particles, and over time this will affect how they render. So, you know, instead of a pure white alpha in your render, you'll get a kind of mixed and sloped tone. So that works for our base particles. And I'm going to put an out null that says base particles. I'm also going to save these to disk. So I'm going to add a file cache. You can name these whatever you feel like doing. And there we go. It's saved to disk, and we can start on our next simulation. I'm also going to go back up here, and I'm going to add another null and just label this grid. So I can just grab anything at any point. Huh. I might actually put this up here. Might work better. So you can see some maps being generated. We'll add another scatter node. Lay it down here. Maybe add 200. And scatter across. Which works, but is very, very slow. So we might want to add down a file cache and just save that to disk. So once again, we can add our popnet. And you can see nothing is generated. So we'll go over here, switch this over to points. Actually, we'll do something a little bit more sneakier. Let's switch this to all points and see what happens. So you can see them being spread across the surface almost like lines. And we'll go to the impulse activation, and we'll go to 1. And now we'll down a pop wind. Put down a 0.4 and see what happens. And now we kind of have these wavy kind of lines. Looks pretty cool. Almost like a sea of particles. So let's merge these together just for fun and see what's happening. See if they look good together. Well, we can't really see them, but we can see them through this. So I'm going to add some color onto these just so we can visualize them better. Once again, change this ramp, and we'll use cooler tones for these. And if we look at this, we should see color, and we're not. Why is that? Ah, because our color attribute is probably still on our object. So we'll copy this and paste it over here. See if it gets less confused. And there we go. We've got our blue wave of particles. So let's go down here and see what's happening. Well, nothing much. You can't really see anything because it's only showing one set of particles. And I'm going to go over here, and we're going to see the error together. So we're going to do the same thing up here as we're going to do over here with our particles. We're maybe going to make these a little bit smaller. Just for fun. We'll save this as particle 2. So that should be saved out now. Perfect. And I'm going to turn this off, create 2 other geonodes, and do something like particle, waves, particle, and we'll go to object merge into this object, copy it, Go to particles. We want the particle waves. Control V. And I'm going to rename that base particle 1 to something else. So I'm going to go up wave. There we go. We can see our particles mixed in together. And you can get some really, you can already see it's looking pretty cool. So let's go to the render view. Already there's going to be an issue because we don't have motion blur turned on. So that's what we're going to do next. And there's also no materials on that either, so we're also going to have to fix that. And see some interesting things start to happen. So let's go to our out mantra. Render current frame range and allow motion blur. Do we see motion blur? We don't see motion blur. So I'm going to cancel this, re-render it again to see what's going on. And at the same time, double check that I didn't delete my velocity. So let's see what's going on because I don't see any velocity really. Okay, it's there. But the issue is that we can't really see it. I think it's too tiny to see. So what we might have to do is I'm going to experiment with a trail. And we'll render. Aha, so we can see something. But that's really, really exaggerated our velocities. So we'll tone it down to something like 0.1. See what that does. Particles are also way too big, so we'll make them smaller. So if we go over here to attribute randomize, we'll tone this down to like a 0.5. And we'll resim. And in the meantime, I'm going to switch this over here. So if we need to edit it in the future, it's easier to refix than resim everything. Let's look to see if that motion blur is still not taking into effect. Another thing we can do, which I'm going to experiment with right now, is since we know the velocities are there, we could actually do a quick wrangle to improve the velocity. Okay, we have some motion blur with our other particles there, but I still don't see anything for down here. We might have to go in and make them a little bit faster, which I don't mind doing, but it is a pain in the butt. Okay, we can start to see some now. I'm gonna push this up to something like 5. And I think I might actually increase the amount of blue particles too, because it's looking really gappy. And we'll add more things to it later on, but I think we can do better. Suddenly we have tons and tons of particles. Whoop. Looks way better. We've got like moving blue grass now, which is cool. So let's let that render. And now let's focus on the motion blur on these balls here. Alright, I think for these two particles, I'm going to play with the camera just to see what we can do with it. So if we go to lens shader, we can do some really cool zoomy out shots of it. Put this at 0, 0. Maybe 1.2. See our cylindrical shader and see what happens there. That looks kind of cool. Looks very abstract, but it's very stretchy. And our polar can do some cool stuff there. If we go to orthographic, this is what it would look like. So you can see that playing around with these factors can make or break your scene, or make you have fun with them. So let's play around with our camera. Push it somewhere in the scene, and then re-render it to see what happens. We can see some cool stuff happening. Very cool warp distortion. Just narrow in the clipping. It's very almost 90-esque feel, but with the way it's projecting the particles, which I really appreciate. So far, that would be what our simulation would look like with camera distortion. So let's see if we can add more elements to it to make it really warpy and really cool. And just add to this as well. Actually, before we do anything and add more to the simulation, let's give these a really cool shader. I think I'm leaning to something a little bit more metallic, so let's add 2 aluminum shaders. Kind of like them on the orange, and I'm not sure about these, so I'm going to save before anything goes wrong and look for something else. Maybe copper? That might work. Let's edit the copper color. You can see it changing a little bit. And I'm going to jump into Mantra and turn off this render and go to physically based rendering. So I'm going to go to my environment light. Okay, that works. Go here. I think I'm gonna add another light, to be honest. Maybe give it pink, green. How about something out there, like a deep purple? Let's let this render out and see what happens, and then we'll add some other elements. I think that looks pretty good for now. Again, we're keeping something and creating something pretty abstract, so there are no rules here, just to have fun. So let's jump back into our particles, and we've got particles. I'm going to jump over here to our grid, and let's generate something. Let's generate something from our base particles, from our ground. We'll do that by adding another pop network. Did you know you could do this? You can create variations on particles by attaching pop networks to different pop networks. It's weird, but it works. So if we go to points, go back here, and let's say we add a pop axis force. We add the radius and we get the height. And let's see what happens. Get some weird turning motion, but they don't lift off and they don't rise. I think I'm going to shorten my timeline. And I'm going to raise my section speed. You can see them sort of rising. And we'll just play with these until we find something that we like. I think we'll go for that for now. And we'll add a pop force. Give it a better swirl size. Go up here and change the life expectancy to 1 and 0.5. Alright, let's look at these. I think we can do better. That's all I'm gonna say. Let's add some more forces. Pop. We're definitely gonna use pop color again. But I think what we could also do is pop replicate. Which is a lot, so we're not gonna add too many of them. You can see it slowly forming, almost taking over. Whoa, that's a lot. So what I'm thinking we might do before we move on and make any other changes in the simulation, go to attribute delete, copy paste that here. I think all I want to really delete right now is the color, and then I want to add another delete. Go to points and delete by range. What that's going to do is going to delete some points for us, and then the rest will be put into the simulation. Still, we have an explosion. Might be too many pop replicates. So let's turn this down to 23 and maybe give this a life expectancy of 0.4. And we'll wait and sim that out. Alright, so we sim that out. That still doesn't look the way I want. So I want to actually turn off the pop axis force and also give some variation to my pop replicate. We'll do a life expectancy of 1 and 0.3. And sim that out again. And I'll let you guys know when I have something that looks adequate. So currently I have these exploding particle-esque things that are replicating. I'm going to go back up here and I'm going to delete some more particles. And I'm going to hide all other objects. Turn this to a 2 and maybe do the 5. And then delete non-selected. Turn that to something crazy. Maybe like 100. Awesome. So now we have a little bit less particles in our sim that are jittering a bit, so I'm going to lay down a time shift. Let's see if that has any effect on the simulation. If it doesn't, then I don't really care. Doesn't really. So I'm going to go here, go back inside, and go to time shift. Go to somewhere like frame 18 and delete the channels and just hold it there at frame 18. Go to our PopNet and we'll see something start to occur. We've got these twisty little lines which look really cool. I'm going to go to my add and I'm going to go polygons by group, by attribute, or by ID. So you get these little lines now, which look really cool and really weird at the same time. And we'll create our attribute create, add a width, scroll down here and we'll make the value like something really low, like 0.3. I'm going to jump up here. I'm going to create another camera, and this would be Control Z. I don't want to. I'm going to just see if our lines are working where I would like them to be. So I'm going to create a test camera. And currently we can't really see them because they don't really have in geometry or width. We'll go outlines. Go cam 2 and render and see what happens. I don't see them. They might be too small, but we'll see what happens. Ah, there we go. I was missing a trail node. So now you can see our points zooming and doing whatever they'd like to do. And we'll render that just for fun to make sure they're the width we want. I know they're way too big right now, but I'd like to see what the correct width should be. Those look pretty wild. Just gonna say that we might have too many particles. If that's the case, I'm gonna dive inside, go to 500, and maybe make that 1,000. That might be a little bit more manageable. Playing that back, it does. And we'll add a color sop. We'll ramp from attribute and we'll go age. I think I'll do like a purple to a blue. And we'll just render this for fun with our test render to see what it looks like now. Let's go a little bit thicker. I can't really see them too much. They look really wild and really fun. So let's add them into our simulation and give them a material. Go to geometry, lines. I'll have that ready to go. But first, let's cache everything out. So let's grab our object merge, put it in here, and then we'll switch this from out particle waves to out lines. And that's what it should look like. So if we go to particles, and we go to camera 1, you should see them mixed in. and based on how it looks here is where and what material I'm going to add on it. Uh-oh, I know what I did. You guys catch what I did wrong? I locked down my camera 1, and now it's where my camera 2 is. So we have a little bit of a problem there. So always keep in mind to turn off this little thingy when you're placing where your camera would like to be. So now we gotta reposition everything, which is gonna be a pain. So I'll reposition everything and bring you right back. So here we go. Here are our particles. I've gone ahead and I've placed a glow onto our lines. So here, you can see it. I'm not too happy with this still, so I'm going to fool around with the camera angle and I'm going to find something interesting. Hello everybody. So as you can see, our scene looks a little bit different. Don't freak out. My recording crashed halfway through while I was fixing everything, so I had to zoom ahead to here, but I will go through everything that I changed so you guys can see what's different. So currently I'm using camera 3 over here to get this very plain twisted effect in my particles. Here's all the changes that I did. Nothing's really changed there. On the transform, that's the placement of the camera. Now for the material palette, I didn't make too many changes. Here's the new settings for the glow, copper, aluminum, didn't change that, and the other aluminum. Material wise, it didn't really change too much, and neither did the simulation. The only thing I really did was add more particles so the gaps are filled. I would even recommend shrinking the P scale down even more and adding way more particles in this. I think that would be a better result. But if we go into here, the only changes I really made is that I went to scatter. It's that number now, 70 over here. In this pop net, I didn't change anything, my bad. In this pop net, I changed this to that. And in this one, I changed the count to this. And then I resummed everything out and I rendered it. And that was pretty much it. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. My name is Kate and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!